My name is Theresa, and I never thought I would witness my sister Kathleen do what she did, right in the middle of her daughter Bailey's 8th birthday party. We had rented a private corner of a park in Atlanta with long picnic tables covered in white tablecloths, balloons tied everywhere, and a small play area for the kids. The spring weather was warm golden sunlight filtering through the canopy of old oak trees. Everything looked like the perfect family photo that my mother Gloria always wants to show off on Facebook. Bailey had spent the entire week making her own multi-layer birthday cake by hand, whipped cream frosting decorated with pink sugar flowers that she had carefully attached one by one. When Kathleen carried the cake out, Bailey stood beside her eyes, shining brightly, hands clasped tightly in front of her chest from excitement. Corey, Kathleen's husband, was sitting at the head of the table. He was wearing a bright polo shirt and laughing loudly with everyone as usual. That kind of laugh that always gets the whole family to join in. He stood up and clapped his hands. "Oh, here comes the little princess's cake," everyone clapped along. Bailey blushed and smiled. Then Corey lifted the cake high, pretending he was about to cut the first slice. Suddenly, he let go. The cake fell straight down onto the wooden table, smashing to pieces. Frosting splattered everywhere. Onto the tablecloth, onto Bailey's dress, even onto the grass. The sugar flowers shattered and scattered around. Corey burst out laughing. "Oops. Sorry, my hand slipped." "But Bailey, you need to learn that life isn't always as sweet as cake, right, everyone?" The laughter spread immediately, sharp and unanimous. Jenna, Corey's cousin, sitting next to him, slapped her thigh and laughed the loudest. "Exactly. Kids these days are way too sensitive." An aunt on Corey's side nodded and added, "She really takes after her mother, always making a big deal out of everything." Gloria, my mother, gave a forced smile, but still smiled, her eyes darting around as if checking who was watching. She patted Corey's shoulder. "Come on, it was just a joke." But it wasn't just that. I clearly heard the whispers from the other side of the table. A distant uncle said to his wife, loud enough for me to hear, "Those two always want to be the center of attention. A homemade cake. Like anyone cares." Someone else smirked. "Our family has Corey, that's enough. The rest of them are just guests." The glances toward Kathleen and Bailey weren't pity. They were disdain, as if the mother and daughter were outsiders, a burden the family had to tolerate just for the sake of family courtesy. Bailey stood there, her dress covered in frosting, eyes red. She didn't cry out loud. She just lowered her head, hands gripping the hem of her dress tightly, trying to make herself as small as possible. I know that look. I've had that look hundreds of times whenever Corey mocked me in front of everyone and the whole family laughed along. If you're listening to this story, please comment below where you're from and what time it is there right now. I'd really love to know who's here with me in this community. Please hit the subscribe button so I can share even better stories. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Now let me continue. I looked at Bailey and my heart tightened. Then I looked over at Kathleen. She was still sitting motionless on the picnic bench, hands resting on her lap, staring straight at the ruined cake. For the first time, she didn't immediately stand up to clean it. She just slowly rose to her feet and walked toward her daughter. Kathleen stepped forward slowly and positioned herself directly between Bailey and the rest of the picnic table. Her back was ramrod, straight shoulders, squared body, forming an unyielding shield around her trembling 8-year-old daughter. I had seen this exact script play out for years. Ever since Corey married into our family, he had been elevated to the status of the golden son my mother Gloria had always wanted but never had. She defended him relentlessly, dismissing every cruel remark or careless act as just harmless teasing. During holidays, family gatherings, or even casual weekend barbecues, Corey never missed an opportunity to take jabs at me. "Still single, Theresa. Too picky, huh?" Or, "You eat like you're contributing, but you don't really do much. Do you?" The whole family would erupt in laughter, and I learned to laugh along, forcing the sound out through gritted teeth. Speaking up only made me the problem, the oversensitive one, the buzzkill. The same toxic pattern had quietly begun with Bailey. Corey would mock her outfits. That dress looks like something from a thrift store. Her hobbies, drawing again. Kids these days are so soft, her soft-spoken voice. Speak up, kid, or no one will hear you. He called it building character. Gloria would nod approvingly. Boys will be boys, or, in his case, men will be men. Kathleen had always been the peacemaker, quickly changing the subject, distracting Bailey with a toy or a hug. But not today. Kathleen stood there, unmoving, her gaze locked on Corey without a single word at first. The air around the tables thickened heavy with unspoken tension. A few relatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats, sensing the shift. The distant laughter of other children playing in the park felt suddenly far away. Corey kept his trademark grin plastered on, but it had started to crack at the edges. He spread his arms wide in mock innocence. Come on, everyone, it was just a joke. No need to get all serious over a little cake. He scanned the faces around him, waiting for the usual chorus of agreement. Jenna, Corey's cousin, jumped in immediately, her voice loud and smug. Exactly, kids these days are way too sensitive. A little tough love never hurt anyone. She leaned toward Corey and gave him a playful nudge. You're doing her a favor, really. She'll thank you when she's older. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the group. Kids need to learn resilience early. Better than coddling them. She'll toughen up. I felt the familiar knot twist in my stomach, the same one that appeared every time the family closed ranks around Corey, shutting out anyone who dared to challenge him. It wasn't new, but seeing it directed at an 8-year-old with frosting smeared across her party dress made it cut deeper, sharper, more unbearable. In that moment, it hit me like a punch. Bailey was absorbing the exact same poisonous lesson I had internalized over years. Stay quiet. Don't ruin the fun. Let the adults have their way. Her feelings didn't matter as much as keeping the peace. I had done it for too long, shrinking myself to fit into the tiny space they allowed, swallowing my voice, my anger, my pain. Watching it happen to her felt like reliving every moment I had silenced myself. Corey kept talking, trying to steer the mood back to normal. Seriously, we'll stop for ice cream on the way home. Problem solved. He glanced at Kathleen expectantly, waiting for her to nod, to smile, to smooth everything over like she always did. But Kathleen didn't move to fix it. She didn't laugh. She didn't deflect. Her eyes stayed fixed on him, cold, steady, unblinking. Seconds stretched into an agonizing silence. Then my mother, Gloria, shot up from her picnic chair so fast it scraped loudly against the ground. Gloria hurried over with a stack of paper napkins, dropping to her knees to wipe frosting off the table and grass. Her voice came out high and bright, the tone she always used when she wanted everything to stay pleasant. Oh goodness, what a clumsy accident, Corey! You're too excited, that's all. She scrubbed harder at a smear on the wood. Don't worry, sweetie, Grandma will run to the store and get you a brand new cake, one of those fancy ones from the bakery with extra sprinkles. She didn't once look at Bailey or reach out to hug her. She didn't check if her granddaughter was upset. All her energy went into cleaning the mess and acting like nothing real had happened. Jenna laughed again, louder this time. See, all fixed kids need to roll with the punches anyway. A couple of others chimed in, agreeing that a store-bought cake would be better than homemade, that children had to get used to disappointment early. I watched my mother on the ground, dabbing at spots that didn't matter, and felt the disappointment settle deep. Gloria had always chosen the appearance of harmony over everything else. She would sacrifice anyone's comfort to keep the surface calm, especially if it meant protecting Corey. He was the one she praised at every gathering, the one whose side she took without question. The rest of us learned to pay the price for her version of a happy family. Kathleen's voice cut through the chatter, low and flat. This wasn't an accident. The wiping stopped. Gloria looked up, smile still fixed but eyes nervous. Kathleen, honey, let's not overreact. It's a party. Kathleen didn't answer her. She kept her position in front of Bailey, one hand now resting lightly on her daughter's shoulder. The laughter had died down completely. People exchanged glances, unsure what to do with the sudden tension. Corey tried again. "Babe, come on. You know I didn't mean anything by it." Kathleen ignored him too. She just stood there steady like she was finally done pretending. Kathleen slowly slid the wedding ring off her finger. She set it down on the picnic table right next to the smashed remains of the cake, the gold band catching the late afternoon light. Then she looked straight at Corey and said calm and clear, "I am done here." The park went quiet. No more chatter, no shifting plates, no distant kids yelling. Just the breeze rustling the oak leaves overhead. Everyone froze, staring at the ring like it was something dangerous. Corey let out a short, awkward laugh. "You're kidding, right, babe? Come on." He glanced around the tables, waiting for someone to join in to break the tension with a joke or a pat on the back. Nobody did. Kathleen didn't respond to him. She reached into her large tote bag hanging on the back of her chair and pulled out a thick black notebook. The cover was worn, the edges frayed from constant use. She placed it on the table with a solid thud that made a few people jump. "I've been keeping track of everything for years," she said, voice steady, almost conversational. "Being the CFO of the family business gives you access to certain records. I started noticing patterns a long time ago." She flipped the notebook open. Pages filled with neat handwriting, columns of dates, amounts, notes. Some pages had printouts taped in, bank statements, transfer confirmations. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The weight of what she was holding did the talking. Corey's face changed. The forced smile dropped. "Kathleen, what is this? Some kind of joke to get back at me?" Gloria leaned forward, eyes wide. "Honey, put that away. This isn't the place." Jenna shifted uncomfortably but stayed silent for once. Kathleen ignored them all. She ran a finger down one of the early pages. "I didn't want to believe it at first. Small amounts missing here and there. Excuses that almost made sense. But then the numbers kept growing." She turned a few pages. "As CFO, I see every transaction in the company accounts. I started cross-checking personal transfers too, because some of the money was coming from joint funds we all rely on." The silence stretched tighter. A couple of relatives exchanged uneasy looks. Bailey stayed close behind her mom, peeking out but saying nothing. Corey tried again, voice sharper now. "You're making a scene over nothing. Whatever you think you found, we can talk about it later privately." Kathleen looked up at him. "No. We're doing this now." She tapped a page with multiple entries highlighted in red. "These aren't business expenses. They're not emergencies or loans to friends. They're transfers to online gambling sites, cover charges for losses, payments to collectors." Gloria made a small sound, half gasp, half protest. "Kathleen, stop. You're upsetting everyone." But Kathleen kept going, turning another page. "I hired an outside accountant last year to verify everything quietly. The reports are all here. Every withdrawal, every excuse that didn't add up." Corey stood up halfway, then sat back down. "This is insane. You're blowing things out of proportion." Kathleen closed the notebook for a moment and met his eyes. "I'm not blowing anything out of proportion. I'm just finally saying it out loud." The ring sat there between them, gleaming against the ruined frosting. Nobody touched their drinks. Nobody reached for the leftover food. The party atmosphere had evaporated completely. Kathleen opened the notebook again, her voice even but firm. "It started small," she said. "A few thousand here and there pulled from the company operating account. I thought maybe it was a mistake at first, an accounting error on my end. But then I saw the pattern." She turned to a section marked with colored tabs. "Corey has been gambling online for years. Sports bets, casino sites, poker rooms, whatever promised a quick win. When he lost, he took more from the business to chase it." Corey's face drained of color. He gripped the edge of the table, knuckles white. "That's not... You're twisting this." Kathleen didn't look at him. She pointed to a taped bank transfer receipt. This one was $32,000 2 years ago. Moved to an offshore betting account. The excuse on the books was equipment upgrade for the warehouse. She flipped forward. Another $45,000 6 months later labeled as vendor payment. But the vendor never received it. It went straight to cover overdrafts on gambling platforms. The numbers kept coming. She read them out methodically, date by date. 58,000 wired last spring disguised as marketing expenses. 29,000 in the fall logged as emergency repairs that never happened. Over 4 years, Kathleen continued, it adds up to $200,000 taken from the family company. Money that was supposed to keep the business running, pay employees, build reserves. Gloria's hands flew to her mouth. Tears started streaming down her face. Please, Kathleen, not here. Not in front of everyone. Kathleen turned a page with more taped documents. And it wasn't just Corey. Several large transfers came from our joint retirement fund, amounts that matched the exact shortfalls in the gambling accounts. She held up a printout showing a $70,000 withdrawal. This one happened 18 months ago. The note said it was for home renovations. We never renovated anything. Gloria sobbed louder. I didn't know the full extent. I thought I was helping with a rough patch. Kathleen's eyes finally met her mother's. You moved the money yourself, Mom? Multiple times. You signed off on the transfers, changed the descriptions in the ledger to hide where it really went. Another page, a series of smaller but frequent pulls, 10,000, 15,000, all routed through personal accounts before landing in betting sites. Corey leaned forward, voice low and shaking. I had a problem. I admit that. But I was going to pay it back. I almost won big a few times. Kathleen shook her head. You never almost won enough. The forensic report I commissioned shows net losses only. No recoveries, just deeper holes. She slid a thick stapled document across the table, the independent accountant's summary. Everything is documented. IP addresses tying logins to our home network, timestamps matching days you were off work, email trails requesting urgent funds. Gloria reached out a trembling hand toward the papers, then pulled back. Stop. Please stop. We can fix this quietly. As a family. Kathleen kept reading. One final entry, the largest single amount, $81,000, shifted just 3 months earlier. Labeled as a loan to a relative, but the trail led to a high-stakes tournament buy-in that ended in a total wipeout. $200,000 gone, Kathleen said. Money earned by all of us over decades meant for security for the next generation. Instead, it funded addiction and lies. Corey slumped in his seat, staring at the ground. His earlier confidence had vanished. Gloria rocked slightly, tears soaking the collar of her blouse, whispering pleas for mercy. Jenna looked away, suddenly interested in her phone. The rest of the relatives sat stunned, forks forgotten, the party food turning cold. Kathleen closed the notebook with a quiet snap. Corey finally looked up. Corey stood up abruptly, his face flushed red. This is ridiculous, he said, voice rising. You're turning a bad habit into some criminal conspiracy. Everyone has stress, work pressure, bills piling up, trying to provide for a family. I made mistakes, sure, but I didn't steal. I always planned to put it back when things turned around. He paced a couple of steps along the picnic table, hands gesturing wildly. Life isn't easy running day-to-day operations while you sit in your office moving numbers around. A guy needs an outlet. I got in over my head, but calling it embezzlement? That's insane. Gloria wiped her eyes and nodded vigorously. Exactly. Families help each other through tough times. That's what we do. We don't air private struggles in public like this. She reached toward Kathleen, voice cracking. Think about Bailey. Think about what this will do to her if everything falls apart. We can sort it out at home together. Corey jumped back in. Yeah, listen to your mom. I'll get help. I'll stop. We'll figure out a payment plan from my salary. No need to blow up our lives over this. He scanned the table, searching for allies. Jenna avoided his gaze. A few relatives murmured uncomfortably but stayed quiet. Kathleen remained seated, posture calm. There's no payment plan that fixes this overnight. And it's not just a bad habit anymore. She pulled out her phone, opened an email, and turned the screen toward them. As of this morning, I contacted the bank and placed freezes on all joint accounts, personal retirement, and the remaining business lines. They've flagged the transactions for review. Corey stopped pacing. You did what the bank confirmed. The holds are in place. No withdrawals, no transfers. I've also retained a lawyer specializing in financial fraud. Paperwork is already filed for a formal investigation into the embezzlement. Gloria gasped. You went behind our backs. Kathleen met her stare. I protected what's left. The company can't operate if more disappears. Corey slammed a hand on the table. You're destroying everything. How am I supposed to pay bills now? How do we eat? Kathleen didn't flinch. That's not my concern anymore. You've had years to stop. She stood up slowly, placing a hand on Bailey's back. This party is over. I want both of you, Corey and Mom, to pack whatever you brought and leave the park tonight. Don't come back to the house. The locks will be changed by tomorrow. Gloria's mouth opened and closed. You can't kick me out. I'm your mother. You chose sides a long time ago, Kathleen said. Now you live with the consequences. Corey laughed bitterly. So that's it. After everything, you throw us out like trash. Kathleen picked up her tote bag. You threw away our security. I'm just ending the charade. The sun had dipped lower, casting long shadows across the grass. Relatives started gathering plates quietly, avoiding eye contact. Jenna muttered something about having to leave early and slipped away. Gloria stood shakily. This isn't right. You'll regret it. Kathleen turned toward the parking area. I already regretted staying silent too long. Corey stared after her, chest heaving. Then he turned to me. Corey turned to me, his eyes red. Theresa, come on, he said, voice low and urgent. You know me. Tell her she's overreacting. You're my sister-in-law. We're family. Back me up here. He stepped closer, hands open like he was appealing to reason. Say something. You've seen how hard I work, how I try to keep everyone happy. Don't let her do this. I looked at him for the first time without looking away. All those years of biting my tongue rushed up at once, the constant jabs at family dinners about my job, my choices, my life, the way he'd mock my opinions in front of everyone and wait for the laughs. The subtle put-downs disguised as advice, making sure I knew my place. No, I said. My voice came out steady, colder than I expected. Corey blinked. What? I'm not backing you up. Not this time. Not ever again. He shook his head. You're serious. After everything I stepped forward, you've spent years making me feel small. Every gathering, every holiday, some comment about how I'm not pulling my weight, how I'm too quiet, too sensitive. And everyone went along because it was easier than challenging you. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. You did the same to Bailey today. And to Kathleen for who knows how long. I'm done pretending it's just your personality. Gloria tried to interrupt. Theresa, don't make this worse. I ignored her. You want me to speak up? Fine. I've had enough of watching you tear people down and get away with it. Corey's face twisted. You're choosing sides now? Against family. This isn't about sides, I said. It's about what's right. And you've been wrong for a long time. He stared at me, breathing hard. For once, he had no quick comeback. Kathleen moved beside me. She put an arm around Bailey's shoulders, pulling her daughter close. Bailey leaned into her small hand, gripping her mom's shirt. Kathleen looked at me, a slight nod. No words needed. We turned together. I took Bailey's other hand. The three of us walked away from the picnic tables, past the scattered balloons and forgotten presents, toward the path leading to the parking lot. Behind us, I heard Gloria's voice rise in protest, then crack into sobs. Corey called out once, my name then Kathleen's, but his words fell flat against the evening air. No one followed. The relatives stayed seated, picking at cold food, murmuring among themselves, but making no move to stop us. We kept walking. The gravel crunched under our shoes. Bailey's grip tightened in mine, but she didn't look back. As we reached the cars, the park lights flickered on, casting long shadows across the grass. 6 months later, light poured into our new apartment in downtown Atlanta. 6 months later, light poured into our new apartment in downtown Atlanta. The windows faced east, so mornings filled the living room with bright sunlight that bounced off the white walls. It was smaller than the old house, but it felt open, uncluttered. No heavy curtains, no tension hanging in the air. Just space to breathe. Kathleen finalized the divorce cleanly. The judge sided with the evidence, and Corey ended up with nothing from the joint assets. The civil lawsuit from the company followed soon after. Repayment orders he couldn't meet. Bankruptcy came quickly. He lost his job when the investigation wrapped up. No firm wanted the liability. Last I heard, he was renting a tiny one-bedroom efficiency on the outskirts, scraping by on temporary gigs. Gloria lost access to everything tied to the family funds. The retirement accounts were divided, but her shares shrank after the fraud adjustments. She downsized to a modest condo across town and took a part-time job at a retail store, something she hadn't done in decades. The occasional card arrived. Long notes about missing us, about how we'd torn everything apart. I stopped reading them after the first few. Bailey changed the most. The quiet hesitation was gone. She laughed out loud now, full and unfiltered, when something amused her. She joined an art class after school and came home covered in paint, chattering about colors and shapes without worrying who might mock her. At night, she slept through without nightmares. She still asked about her dad sometimes, but the questions came with curiosity, not fear. I moved in with them shortly after everything settled. The spare room became mine, and the three of us built a routine that worked. Mornings started with coffee on the balcony, evenings with simple dinners and board games. No walking on eggshells, no waiting for the next outburst. Just ordinary days that felt extraordinary because they were calm. Looking back, the cost was steep. We lost the big family gatherings, the illusion of unity, the people who chose convenience over accountability. But watching Bailey run around the apartment, hair flying as she chased imaginary adventures, made it clear we paid for something better. Setting boundaries isn't cruel, it's protection. Sometimes it means cutting ties completely to stop the damage from passing down. We broke the old pattern to build something solid for the next generation. If you've ever had to walk away from toxic ties to save yourself, or someone you love, drop boundaries in the comments. Let's remind each other that choosing peace isn't selfish, it's necessary.